Believe it or not, Peter Overzet is alive. I'm not sure if he's going to make it or not going to make it based on everything that has happened thus far today. I popped in to your stream that you were doing with Sal from 4 for 4 right before this because I saw you were doing, a hot chip challenge type thing to see if you were even going to make it to this show, and it was somehow worse than I expected it to be, and I had pretty low expectations in terms of how well it was going to go for you. So how are you feeling right about now?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like the dynamic is like when my wife knows I'm drinking and then she knows that she's going to have to deal with me after the fact. So she's like checking in on that. That's what you were doing. You were checking in being like, I'm the one who has to deal with this aftermath because I, somehow booked that stream as my first one in the day, which now that I really kind of think it through was not smart.
Yeah. You're in this content grind. On one hand, you would think that you would know better than anyone, right? You're doing like 5 streams a day. So you would think, oh, okay, I'll be able to map this out appropriately. But on the other hand, you're just like, okay, I'm trying to fit all this shit in. I'm trying to do these drafts. And you're like, oh yeah, Sal, that sounds good. That'll be good content. Maybe not for 1 p.m. when you got, the rest of your day. You're going to try to make it to the gym. I'll believe that when I see it.
I'll post a photo for everyone. No one believes me. I will get there. I got to stay on my schedule. That's the only way I survive with all this busyness.
That's what I hate running and stuff. I like to work out and all that. I hate cardio basically. But I've been forcing myself to try to get back into it. And it's the biggest reminder of how old I'm getting. So I'm trying to stick to it, trying to do the running and everything. And then I can't even hardly get out of bed the next morning if I go for a run. So I imagine tomorrow is going to be the real test for you to see if you're going to make it.
Well, sometimes we've already talked about the Davis, the best ball Stairmaster hack is a good one. I feel like when you go on a run, you can throw on the podcast, which is always nice. I go to these classes at my boxing gym though, where I can't listen. I'm not getting any habit stacking. I'm just getting my ass kicked. So I do wish I was doing a workout where I could vaguely enjoy it today, but whatever. We're here to draft a monster best ball team.
Yeah. So before we start, I was going to ask you, obviously you're like maybe 130 in, 130 BBMs in or something like that.
Yeah.
How have you been changing anything over, we're a week away. The rooms are a little bit softer, but still the ADP is, it kind of is what it is at this point, I think on Underdog. What's like your general takeaway for drafts now up until the season?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not doing anything too different. People were asking, like, are you trying to get these crazy starts? And my thought is we finally have the big dump of information that is new. And I looked through some of my old teams where I just, punted off so many rounds, 15 through 18 picks that no longer look relevant. I don't have the stack. I don't have the correlation with that stuff. So my whole thing was been like, let's just build within these same structures. We've been hammering 0 RB, hyperfragile, anchor RB, and then dial them in with the really good late round targets where we now kind of have a lot more information. So I know lots of guys, I always give my buddy Chris in our Discord a hard time because he maxed it early. I know a lot of people who maxed it early. And to me, it's like, I'm just saying, how can I make better teams than those sharp players who already maxed it?
Yeah, that is so true. I felt like everybody's probably gone through this. If you've been doing kind of if you're one of the few hundred or few thousand people that have been going through this grind for the last, 3-4 months or whatever, like, I got so robotic probably for a small stretch. And then we got to this point and I'm like, God, I've done this same thing hundreds and hundreds of times now. And you do start to think like, okay, how should I start really galaxy braining this? Should I start, going crazy off the rails, whatever? And I did exactly what you did. I went back through some teams and was like, okay, let me look at like kind of where my early, like what do my early teams even like really look like? Like I know what my exposures look like, but just kind of like take a little bit of a step back and think about how to approach, just like what does your portfolio even look like? Like how bad are your early teams? Spoiler alert, my first like 10 teams are an absolute embarrassment. Like I posted with my first one and it wasn't even one of my worst ones, but it's kind of embarrassing to look back at some of them.
Yeah.
But it kind of helped me to be like, no, your whole point was you knew that those teams a lot of them were probably going to look pretty shitty. So now, like, yes, they're not as supercharged as some of your other teams that we're drafting right now, but like just keep taking this advantage that we have through structure or whatever. And like you said, use the information advantage. Like I know my 18th round pick is going to make the team now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't know that before.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing too. I think we both probably have some nice super teams. It is also funny to just see the various trends. Like for some reason I was drafting a lot of 3 quarterback teams earlier in the offseason, and then I kind of corrected that. I think probably around early summer when we all, started talking about really trying to push these edges as far as you can. I had a period early on too where I was almost always going elite tight end. Like I just kept drafting Kittle and Waller, and then I was like, all right, I need to course correct from that. And now I'm just kind of almost trying to Men in Black myself from specific player and stuff, and just be like, not to say play the best plays. I'm still drafting very structurally, but just like, let's just draft the best possible team within these structures, inside and out.
Yeah, that's I kind of had that revelation where I probably did a few drafts over the course of the last like 2 weeks where I was kind of like getting a little bit too crazy, a little bit too off the rails. And same thing, like, okay, let me do the flashy thing and like just do what you were doing 2 months ago, but in this new environment. Like that's literally the entire point of drafting throughout the entire season.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So I don't think we want to galaxy brain ourselves too much here at the end. Man, in this spot, I normally just lock up Ridley because I don't want to get squeezed out from him.
Me too. The other thing is, I've been thinking a lot about, I know I just talked about not galaxy braining, but thinking a lot about like kind of the concept of how do I beat, how do you beat the CMC teams? How do you beat the Kamara teams and all that? And I really feel like even a double wide receiver start is still kind of the way to do it. Zero, not even just zero RB, like, Swift is around a lot and stuff. Like I kind of like, Metcalf or even Jefferson. I'm trying to get some more Jefferson, and I don't think that's too much of a reach. What do you think about one of those guys?
No, I like getting, that is the one of the thing where I try to say, oh, do I have a lot of Ridley Metcalf? I love Metcalf. I'm starting to get super excited about him with all these Shane Waldron quotes and all this.
Yeah, me too. And I posted something yesterday. I think it was yesterday on Twitter. It was on DraftKings. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get it in this on this team, but you can do some fun starts that are not really that serious of reaches. Like DK Metcalf is what do we, you took him, you have to take him 4 picks ahead ADP. Like who cares, right? That doesn't even really mean anything. And then you have access to possibly like Falcons, Seattle stacks, because Pitts and Lockett are available there at the 3-4 turn. And, you don't have to do that. You can take Swift if you want to take Swift. You can, you can do different things, but it's opening some things up that just by how, tethered people are to ADP, like nobody has, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Lockett teams or something like that,
right?
And that's not like, to me, like totally galaxy braining anything. That's just kind of like making small tweaks based on the fact of everything that we know from drafting for months.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a fun exercise, maybe for one of our data whiz friends like Leone or something, just to pull up. You could even just use median projected points and you run all the combos for the top 25 players or whatever. And so you can just really illustrate how close, a Metcalf is to, whoever else is going in that range. Because again, we're not aiming for the median, but just to kind of illustrate, we get so anchored to the ADP. Oh God, 4. But if you actually just add it up, and then if you put the ownership also in a column or how frequently they're drafted together, I think that would be very illuminating for people to realize, oh, I'm not sacrificing that many points going from, Metcalf Ridley to one of the other running backs. And on top of that, it's way less common of a start.
Yeah. Like you can't take a lot. Like I try to apply DFS logic, like about as much as I can, because I think just the way we think about things in DFS from a game theory perspective is so much more evolved than best ball is, and it's not an apples to apples comparison typically, but like, that's the perfect example. Like, like a stack, if you're creating a stack on NFL Sunday, right? Week 1, we're going to do this experiment in a week, in a few days, probably the content's going to start rolling out where like, we know whatever, right? DK Metcalf versus insert other second round player on the opening week of DFS, like they project almost the exact same, but the Seattle stack is going to be 2% and this other stack is going to be 20%. Like we inherently know that in DFS, but we haven't gotten to that point, because like you said, everybody's so tied to ADP, and maybe we're even a little bit robotic, or the field's just not as sharp. Like, we're unwilling to have that conversation in best ball, and it really is as simple as you pointed out.
Yeah, and I think the counter argument you usually hear is, well, there's going to be someone that has, a better version of that team. But like in instances like this, I mean, it's actually very hard with those first one. It's more of an issue later in drafts where you actually can build the same team, but with an extra player in there. I mean, you can't Calvin Ridley, Metcalf. It's not like you're squeezing in a third guy to get those two.
Right. That's the difference. Is if you do it smartly, like I think this example is, if you do it smartly, you're not sacrificing really anything. I guess maybe, like you said, a couple of projected points or something. But at the end of the day, that doesn't even really mean anything. It's not. People are just really tied too much at the beginning of drafts to ADP. Like, being tied to it, once you get 10, 11, 12th, whatever, I think is more important. But people are really tied to, like, this guy's the 18th overall pick, I can't take him 14th.
Yeah, exactly. Lockett does go. That would have been,
of course, and Pitts. So that was a real swing and a miss. Yeah. Ooh. I often take Kupp here, but I don't really have much Evans. What do you think about these receivers?
Yeah, I normally take Kupp and then know I'm probably going to get one of Evans or DJ Moore. Although maybe I jinx us here with this guy.
I'll just put him in the queue and see. Maybe they'll take him, and there's a backup plan, I think.
Do you think Kupp could be like a massive hit this year, or just like a small win?
I think he can be a massive hit.
Yeah.
Of course, DJ Moore goes. See, this is a big tier break for me at wide receiver. So I think we go Swift.
Yep.
Here. I've gotten more, just as the year has gone on, I've gotten just more and more. Every time I think about Cooper Kupp, I'm like, I just feel like he's a smash. And I know he's not the typical kind of, he's a little older, right? We kind of think we know what Cooper Kupp is. But I mean, two years ago with Jared Goff, he was the wide receiver 5. And I know, end of season rankings, blah, blah, blah. But the guy was a red zone monster. And we see, he had a 20 target game last year. This isn't Jarvis Landry, which I feel like people lump him. Robert Woods is kind of closer to Jarvis Landry, and we lump Cooper Kupp in there. And I think, maybe I'm overshooting what Stafford's impacts could be, but I just feel like Kupp is the guy that could just absolutely go to the moon if this offense really is as good as I think it could be.
Right. No, I agree with that as well. And Woods is like the guy who could be a small win, whereas Kupp, I think if he's kind of Stafford's primary target, I mean, that's an absolute blast off. Willis, that's not the Alex we know and love. Alejandro is the one you're thinking of. I don't know who this Alex is, so if it was Alejandro, I would have known for a fact. I don't know this Alex though.
Alex Berg is I think he's in our Discord. I've seen him. He was on our happy hour stream yesterday. I think Alex, I'm not trying to throw shade on you, Alex, but he had a funny story. We were just on happy hour. We kind of just shoot the shit and talk about whatever comes to mind. And we were talking about, like, do your friends, or like, do your real life friends play best ball? And I was like, I have one friend, like literally only one person. And he's like texting me constantly. He's super into it.
Yeah.
And nobody else even has any idea what this shit is. Right. Which is like, the crypto thing. It's like, dude, we're still early, right? Like, all your friends play fantasy football, but none of them have any idea even what underdog fantasy is. So anyway, Alex Berg said he found out his brother played best ball because they were in a draft together.
That was how he had the news, bro.
Yes, to his own brother. They didn't know that each other played best ball, and they just saw each other in an underdog lobby and had the like Spider-Man GIF
that is
moment.
Hilarious. And that's also just speaks to just kind of male communication as well. They wouldn't even bother being like, oh, I've enjoyed these drafts. Just like, oh no, we'll just figure it out in the same room.
Right. Yeah, this is my buddy. It's what we call all the rest of my friends are leeches, because they don't care about, like, anything except sending me texts like, hey, I'm in my draft. Who should I take in the 5th round? And then they're like, what, you said you want T Higgins? Like, I'm not taking the second wide receiver on the Bengals. I'm like, don't ask for my opinion then if you don't really want it.
I have one. He's a guy I've known for a while. He's a solid friend. but he does that thing to me all the time where he asks for the advice and then argues with me. And I'm just like, why are it? And so sometimes I just ignore him and he's like, hey man, I know you're busy. You might take, I'm like, dude, whatever I say, you're just going to play the contrarian take on it. It's like, then why are you even asking me?
It's great. That's what most of them do. My one buddy is a Broncos fan. And I was like, it's perfect. I love Javonte Williams. You're going to love Javonte Williams. Take him. He's like, but Melvin's the starter. And so we do this back and forth thing. I'm like, I was even like playing to your heartstrings. Like, you're a Broncos fan. There's this exciting young rookie. I'm like, dude, I got the perfect pick for you. And he's like, no, I can't take Javonte Williams in the 6th round. So,
yeah. It's I know, and it's really funny too when you get those questions and then you start to think like, okay, can I actually explain why we so much more prefer Javonte Williams in a very simple way? And then you start to realize, okay, I'm opening up Pandora's box. We're talking about bet payoffs here. We're talking, and then they say, well, he's way more expensive than Melvin Gordon. Why wouldn't you just take the cheaper guy? And then you're like, do I really want to have this conversation over text?
So here's Alex. I didn't feel like disclosing to my family that I buried myself in best ball drafts all summer, and apparently neither did my brother.
Oh,
that's so goodness. Good. That's so good. Yeah, I made the joke earlier today, King Coakley, which, by the way, you guys stream. I guess we're about to be on the clock. We can come back to this because I thought your stream with Sean was great. God.
So
preference.
I mean, if we want to like make a bet on the Lions, I mean, Hawkinson, although we could just pick our tight end coming back. I don't mind reaching for Debo or Visca here either.
Let's take Visca, actually. I know what room we're in.
It is kind of interesting to me that Visca, I guess, I mean, when we take him here, but just in general, that he still hasn't gotten like the steam that Judy has gotten. I do still slightly prefer Judy, but I don't really think they should be viewed that differently.
No, I totally agree. All those, I guess, it's the second year wide receiver thing. That's an interesting thing, kind of pivot to, you obviously had Sean on a draft right now. And there was like this wasn't exactly what he talked about, but there's just this interesting dynamic at play in these drafts right now where like the market has just gotten this level of understanding around these archetypes of players, right? Even last year, but definitely 2-3 years ago. Like, even though Visca was lighting up camp, even though Judy is, getting he's uncoverable in camp, we would not be getting these guys catapulted up to the 5th round because they really haven't done anything yet, So there's this interesting, like, I guess I still struggle a little bit with like, I have my like 8th round Visca from early in the summer, but I also feel we have better information about really how strong of a bet that he is. And obviously this room is a little bit different, but like, kind of how are you playing that? Or did you get any reads on like Sean, Gretch, Ben's, or Sean, Ben and Pat's like ideas on that?
Yeah. And one thing that it's funny because I think you had two competing things in that, in general, the best ball population and fantasy population likes to overreact to what happened most recently. Last year, we saw all the rookies crush. And so now we see Devonta Smith's offseason ADP where it started and even where he's kind of settled, just being very expensive relative to where a guy like CeeDee Lamb was going. We see it with Jamar Chase, who is going over T. Higgins. And then we slowly saw kind of people like Sean talking about these second-year breakouts, people really honing in on that archetype, and we start to see the flip on Higgins over there, over Chase. So I think that's kind of interesting to see that push-pull of, people kind of realizing, oh, maybe these second-year wide receivers are the better bets over the rookies, even though we had lots of rookies crush last year.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I'm naturally just kind of like contrarian galaxy brain and all that. And so like I was on all of that early in the year, not because I'm like super sharp. I just listened to smart people talk about these guys. And then you get them early and you watch, like I think one of the first, I went through this exercise like you talked about of looking at my old teams. And I think the first time I took Jerry Jeudy, in May, he was like pick 88 or something like that, and now he's like, just absolutely shot up the board. Yeah. Similar for Visca. And so I have this natural, like, push and pull with myself. That's like, okay, the market is appropriately reacting to me, but then how can I take advantage of this, or should I just still be playing it how I kind of think who the best picks are? Like, have you adjusted at all on any of these guys? Or are you still kind of like hammering Visca in that range and hammering Judy, etc.?
Yeah, I haven't gotten extremely overweight on any player. I think Rondell Moore's my most drafted at 21%, and it makes sense because he's the guy I've been willing to chase the steam on. I still don't mind grabbing him in the ninth, especially if I have Cowboys or a Kyler or whatever. So yeah, I haven't gotten too crazy, and I think I just kind of intuitively just kind of mix up. It's like, okay, I know I've been when I in that situation, Debo or Visca, it's like I think in the back of my head I just know, oh, the past 3 drafts you were grabbing Visca, so maybe let's grab him there. So yeah, I think that's one lesson that I think I have been able to execute from last year, where I got way too overconfident on certain guys and just took them over and over. I think I do have a little more Zen approach. It is hard though when, say, you're like, I love this second year archetype. I think Visca is the last of this tier. Mm-hmm. And then he's always there as the last of that tier. So that does mess with it a little bit.
Same thing for me. I've done it maybe a little bit differently, where I did early in the year. So I think my exposures are working themselves out as we get to the end here. And I'm like higher exposed to certain guys than say you are, because I was hammering him, like making the bet that Trey Lance shouldn't be going in the 14th round or whatever, Yeah. All right, let's take a look real quick before. Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, Juju, Mike Williams, Fuller. It's typically like Juju, Fuller. Yeah. I would probably rank it. I have so much Fuller.
I do too. I probably in this spot, I'm just like, all right, let's grab Juju since he's normally the odd man out. He's like never feels fun to click, but I think just a very good pick there.
Yep. Alex is going to take Mike Williams and Will Fuller here. Oh, me cool. So now Fuller's here.
Scroll down and see our team here again.
Yep. Sorry. Swift, Ridley, Metcalf, Kupp, Visca, Juju, Hockenson.
Yeah. Okay. I was just trying to see if there's any. Yeah. So I'm the same with you. I'm normally taking Fuller here unless you want to set up like any other backdoor stacks or something.
No, this is where sometimes the exposures might just get like, I'm okay. Like, you still have to like make the best who you think is the best pick. You know what I mean? And I can't for the life of me pick Darnell Mooney over Will Fuller. And I don't even hate Darnell Mooney, but I'm just not doing that. So it is what it is. Sometimes you get backed into it. Eighth round, Fuller falling this far on underdog wasn't happening all that long ago. So I'll take advantage of it.
One of the, as Sean is known to do, where he says something very subtly, but you always like your ears perk up. And he had a line last night where he was like, yeah, I think the Dolphins are done with Parker. And it was like one of those things where we didn't have time to like press him on it, but he was like, he's feeling very confident about Fuller and Waddle and Gesicki to a lesser extent, like being the guys you want there.
Well, now you have to bring him on, or somebody needs to press him, because I do have some Devontae Parker because I'm on the Dolphins. But that's interesting because I wonder who, like, Albert Wilson maybe, and Waddle kicks outside. I don't know. That's an interesting take.
Yeah. One other nice thing I like about this team, and one of the reasons I am an unashamed slow draft bro, is because I do really like setting up the correlations. And we got one that isn't talked about a ton here, which is Seattle and Detroit in week 17. So getting that anchor Metcalf and then getting the two best, players on the Lions, you can really envision a nice shootout scenario there in week 17. So I like getting those correlations when it works.
The Lions are a fun one. I like to, it doesn't happen very often, but I love, so the Lions play the Cardinals, Falcons, and Seahawks in the playoffs, which is obviously nice because we get Ridley against we get game stacks basically. We don't have Cardinals, but we get game stacks throughout the playoffs. I love the Lions are a really good one for that. Also because their defense is probably going to suck. And then when you have Swift and Hockenson, in theory, you have like everything for the Lions. The Jets are another one I think that is nice because they get the Dolphins, Jags, and Bucks. then there's somebody else too. I forget. Oh, well, I mean, Houston, it's always easy to, I don't really like to take Houston guys, but like toss. That's why I have so much Nico Collins, because it's like, well, I'm drafting 49ers and I'm drafting,
Yep.
all these guys.
I definitely had a lot of that too. Yeah, the only fly in the ointment, I think, for some of that schedule stuff, like that week 17 game, it's going to be what, first week of January in Seattle. Same when you talk about the Jets, they have 2 home games, middle of winter in New York, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay. I mean, we do know from our DFS stuff that those really cold weather temperatures and stuff can limit scoring. So that is another thing where, again, with my slow draft stuff, looking at those correlations, also looking who are the dome teams, where are the nice weather teams, basically just trying to get every single micro edge possible with these teams.
It's really sick that this is what we've come to, right?
Yeah.
We're like, do you have a weather.com tab open at all times for January in Buffalo and Seattle and all these places?
I just kind of intuitively know that having lived in the Northeast that, New York, Davis and I went to that it was Giants Dolphins game. And that was in December a few years ago. And I was freezing my ass off and I had layers the entire game. So yes, I don't mean to FUD, weather schedule this far in advance, but I mean, if all things are equal and we're breaking ties, we want to be in the dome.
I agree. All right. So do you want to keep pressing? Obviously we're closing in on getting run out of a tier of wide receiver. Do you want to polish up wide receiver, or do you want?
I think Rojo is now an even more screaming value with this ankle sprain to Gio.
I've done 2 drafts today, and I took Rojo in both of them because I was taking him early. He fits like almost every structure, really. But I was taking him early around this range, and so I kind of backed off. And now I feel like it's such a good time to kind of get sprinkle in some more Rojo.
For sure, yeah. I think that's a very nice spot to take advantage of that. Let's see. I always like putting Terrace Marshall in there.
Yeah, because I don't love these running backs. I don't want to take Lance. We don't have anybody. Ugh.
It probably is Marshall.
I think it's Marshall.
Yeah, maybe sometimes I toss in like Ruggs, but his ADP's been dropping a little bit.
Ruggs?
Yeah, just a little bit. I feel like he was at like 1.9, 110 for a long time.
People are, and I think that here's another. I've been kind of out on the Raiders. Not like I mix in a little bit of Ruggs. I actually don't take very much Waller, but like I'll mix in those guys, right? Not Josh Jacobs, obviously, but I'll mix in Bryan Edwards, whatever, the occasional Hunter Renfrow dart or something like that in the last round. Usually that's only when I'm on with Silva, which good Lord, by the way.
I have that stream bookmarked. I need to get to it. Was that a fun draft?
It was pretty funny. Obviously we did a big dog, and I couldn't get him to stop taking running backs. He would not even listen to me on some wide receivers. So we're very robust running back, and we were sifting through some real bums at wide receiver at the end of that draft.
Yeah. Yep. That's what happens. I think anyone, if you really max out these drafts or you do the volume that we have, it's almost hard not to kind of come around to drafting wide receivers because it's so miserable to have to try to piece together wide receiver late in these rooms.
We're like, okay, do you prefer James Washington or Tim Patrick? At the end of draft, like we were just trying to find a guy that was like going to make a team at the, at the end of a big dog draft. So. Yeah.
It is. What did we do with our starting RBs here?
Oh, Swift Rojo. Yeah. R.I.P. It's over.
It's done. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. So what quarterback stacks do we have cooking here? Stafford, Lawrence.
Stafford's still around. Lawrence, Tua, Darnold.
Nice.
So that's solid.
Yeah, I always like when you have them, spread out by a couple rounds so you can kind of pick your spots.
Have you reacted at all? You're grinding the news harder than I am with any of the Watson stuff. Like Tua's starting to fall. He fell real far in the draft I did earlier today. Are you scooping any Tua, or does the Watson stuff spook you at all?
It doesn't spook me. I think if I was had Tua in a dynasty league, I'd be spooked that this owner just doesn't seem like he is content or that he would want to give him a shorter leash. But I really think it's unlikely that anything happens with Watson. And it is interesting that there was the distinction of the owner, pushing for this. But if the GM and the owner were on the same page, they probably would have fired off all the picks and gotten it done.
And didn't Flores just say, like, I know, I mean, it's a coach and then they're heading into week 1, so it's really not anything groundbreaking, but I think Flores said, like, Tua is our starter,
Yeah.
So that was at least like, he could have said nothing. He could have said like, oh yeah, that's not my area or whatever. He at least did confirm Tua. And it'd be one thing, like, I know Tua played poorly last year, but he looks great in the preseason and all the reviews are just awesome. So I'm really, the Watson thing is bizarre.
Yeah, I'm excited about him. I know I've heard some people talk about, their offensive line being an issue, but it seems like they have designed the offense for him to get the ball out quickly. It's why they bring in Waddle for more of that underneath stuff. So if he is healthy and he's able to kind of make his reads and get the ball out quickly, like this could be a really fun offense Fuller and Waddle are awesome after the catch. So as long as they just put him in a position to succeed and aren't, making him do things he's not good at, I think the Dolphins are one of those organizations that aren't going to put a square peg in a round hole. I think they're going to set him up to succeed.
Yeah, I think we even saw that with like the Gesicki thing. People are worried about Gesicki, and I do get that. They drafted these guys like Waddle that can basically take some of his snaps, and Hunter Long and all of that. But I also think it speaks to they're trying to get all these weapons together and fit them together appropriately. You know what I mean? You can't just be jamming 12 targets to Devontae Parker, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage if you want to set Tua up for success. And I think, maybe I'll be totally wrong, but I think the Dolphins are going to be like a really exciting offense.
Yeah. And we already saw it too. I always remember that game last year, I believe against the Raiders. It was one of those random night games. And it was just absolute shootout. Like the Dolphins could be one of those sneaky shootout teams that are no longer sneaky because every other one of their games is a shootout.
Oh, damn. There was Stafford. I'm not really excited about Stafford, but falling this far was almost pretty nice.
Connor seems pretty nice here. Do you have any other suggestions?
I do not. This is pretty pretty far fall for Connor actually too. I've been getting a little bit more of him too because just with the structure of the way that I'm building a lot of teams like this, similar to zero RB, hero RB type stuff, and he's such a good fit.
Yeah, for sure. Also, with my micro edge bro hat on, Cardinals play Detroit week 14 as well, which is a little bonus. Did Lawrence just go? Gosh.
Yes, that's what I was trying to. I think he would have taken. I think Alex would have taken Connor. I think we were screwed.
Yeah, Connor wasn't slipping. So in this spot, do you feel like you need to reach for Tua, or do you like trying to push it?
Let's push it a little bit, I think.
Okay.
I kind of want to do one of the Bills wide receivers. Yeah. We have Swift, so I feel, Swift and even Swift, Rojo, Connor, like I'm not worried about running back. Obviously, I'm not worried about tight end with Hawkinson, and now we can just kind of play it, right? We still have Darnold in our back pocket. We have Tua in our back pocket, and then if you really have to do the Big Ben thing, that's obviously not ideal, but there's options, backdooring Teddy, backdooring Mac Jones, whatever. There's options.
Yep. Yeah. And that's also one of the huge things that's changed in the past, week is the backdoor stack options are so much more clear with Bridgewater, with Mac Jones. Like we didn't have those available to us before, unless we were truly reading the tea leaves like the team we drafted. Oh my God, where we got Mac Jones. Did we stack him up with Jonnu? Is that who we had on that team?
Henry. Mac Jones, Hunter Henry. Yeah. And then we obviously I guess the logic was partially right because I think part of the bet was Sony could get traded, but he made like he had outs. He had all these different outs to being relevant. And yeah, boy, then the trade happened like right after, and then obviously the Cam news. We really hit the lotto on that team.
I know that team shaped up really well. Yeah, and we got other stuff we can do. We could we could grab Chuba and then grab Darnold if we want to build out Cardinals stuff. Tua does go, which again is a bummer, but we're getting cleared out. It happens.
I've been a lot more open. We talked about this it's probably been months ago now, after the wide receiver apocalypse happened on Underdog, like how were we adjusting to that, in order to not get run out of wide receiver? Like, I mean, we have the best wide receivers, and basically we took two semi-early detours, right, for
Yeah,
Swift and Hawkinson, and we still probably have the best wide receivers in this room. Someone may disagree, but that, we're right there at wide receiver. But in order to be able to do that, I think using these late round quarterbacks is one of them. I know ideally we want, one of the real upside plays, but like I think it's totally fine to like just try to see if you can scrape by on some teams with, whether it's Jameis or Matt Ryan. We can use Matt Ryan if we want. We can use like Zach Wilson backdoor. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong I'm not really excited about Big Ben, but like maybe I'm wrong about that. There's tons of these guys that like I am excited about Darnold. People are excited
yeah.
about Mac. These guys can get you by, I think.
For sure. And I think we've given ourselves the luxury where we're treating Swift as an anchor. We are treating Hawkinson like an elite quarterback. We're already good at with our great wide receiver. So we can go 3 quarterbacks in this build very easily if we need to. And that's what I think keeps you from making panic moves at quarterback, because you always have that out of I've deployed my capital elsewhere. So how do I still win and make the best possible team? Well, I use more bullets at this position, and I bought myself flexibility with those other picks. Some people might say, well, Swift isn't the elite running back, Hawkinson isn't the elite QB, but you and I are like, we're going to push it. We're going to draft as if they are, and then build the structure around that.
It was on one of your recent shows. You've only done about 700 of them over the last 2 weeks. So God forbid that I'm not going to be able to, keep which one it was straight. But you said something about like with using 2 tight ends, like you were talking about, people are like, when would you draft 3? And you were like, I actually want to push the limits of the 2. The same thing applies to running back. I want to push the limits of 2 because yes, using Noah Fant as my tight end 1 and only using a second guy with Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry, Jonnu, whatever. Yes, that as we slide down the draft, the probability gets lower that guy is, the hit that you need in order to fit that structure, right? Swift as an anchor is a lower probability bet than the top 2 round guys, but that's okay. Now we use, like, you start combining these bets. It's a little bit lower probability, but the payoff also increases because your wide receivers are better, right? And you have Hawkinson, so you just start combining these different things. And like, people don't ever think, they're always just like, oh, I have to have a certain competent level of running back. And it's like,
right.
Not really. Like, yes, it's a little scarier. You don't feel as good, going into week 1, but it doesn't change the end of the season payoff when you build structurally sound around that guy.
It's like when you're using the Underdog parlay pickup. You just do 2. It's a better bet. You add 3 on there. It's less likely to happen, but you get more money. Oh, you add a 4th. It's way less likely to happen. But if you are right, you're getting paid out 5x or whatever. So it's that same concept. It's just more risk, more reward.
That is so true, man. It does get so gross here.
I don't mind Matt Ryan. We do have that Atlanta Buffalo game, week 17. I don't know.
I'm gonna put him in the queue. I don't have a lot of him, but I also think he makes sense here. And if we did want to go, let's do Matt Ryan actually.
Yeah, and he gives us again the flexibility to go 2 QBs or 3 depending on how we're feeling.
And I think there's a lot of guys here that I would be totally fine with, even in 2. Whether it's I know we don't have a stack with Baker, but there's backdoor options for Baker. Jameis, I'm not particularly excited about Kirk Cousins, but he's also plummeting. So Fitz goes and McKissick goes. I kind of feel like we really kicked the can down the road on quarterback. What do you think?
Yeah, I think getting Ryan there gives us some more of that flexibility. I think I don't mind just like going a little jacked up at tight end with Kmet, or if you like the Madison or Lindsey play, I think those make sense.
I think I want to do Madison here. Partially because I think some of the backdoor options are tight ends for our second quarterback stack. Yeah. And I would just like to keep that open as much as I love Kmet. Also, I have like so much Kmet.
Yeah.
He's closing in on Darrington Evans is still my highest owned player. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to overcome that, but he's closing it. Like, he's getting way up there as more of these late round tight ends get wiped out.
Yeah, it's been a disaster losing Irv, losing Ingram, and then you're like, okay, you're staring at Gronk, and that's Everett now is getting pushed up because I think of that dynamic as well. And it was pretty comfy, like grabbing Everett and Komet in a ton of drafts at a nice price. But with those injuries, that dynamic's not in play anymore.
Yeah, it's really crazy, and I like to get as gross as anybody, but we've definitely wiped out a lot of guys, and even some guys that aren't like wiped out. I think that their range of outcomes and definitely their hit rate has taken a real decline. Like Ferkser or whatever.
Yeah.
At first I was kind of like, okay, this is largely what I expected, but it keeps getting worse for Ferkser. I'm like, okay, I know he's just a receiver, but like I would like to see him play a few more, like a few more snaps to make me feel better.
Yeah, that was one of those when I was looking at the preseason usage, I kept waiting for like a shift, but every single game he was in a three-way snap split just with the first team alone. Like who is it? Luke Stalker and some other
Yeah.
guy. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's trending toward a breakout year.
No, my dogs are absolutely losing their shit. So I don't know if somebody is here or they hate Anthony Ferkser, or maybe they think that we're wrong about Anthony Ferkser. I'm not sure.
Do they have the Jerry bark effect or they're the opposite? This is a warning sign.
I don't know. They bark like they used to bark on every stream when we would do. I mean, there's got to be somebody here. My wife is gone. She got summoned
If
back.
if you need to go check,
office.
I can hold it down for a sec.
We got 11 picks, so I'm gonna go make sure.
Yeah, I got you. I've finally taken over Spike Week. This was my goal all along. I am the captain now. I will be leading you through the best ball cosmos for the foreseeable future. DeAndre Swift, Ronald Jones, James Conner, Alexander Madison. I always forget when my guests get up and I do my bits that they still have their headphones in so they can hear me.
I know. It was good though. Now, see, we're just across more. There's more dog barks. This is the dog episode, I guess.
Underdog, very on brand here.
This is true. I do need to buy one. I haven't bought one yet. So.
No, I'll get you an influencer randomizer box.
Perfect.
Nick asking me in the chat, are you going to be alive for tonight's shows? Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I was most worried about this show if I was going to be able to recover. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to do a randomizer draft with Silva at 8:30, and then we're doing a main event draft with Davis. So it'll be a fun day of drafting.
How many more like total shows do you have before you guys leave for Vegas?
Only a couple. Only a couple because I'm taking Labor Day weekend off. So yeah, we're doing a draft stream on Tuesday night. I'm going to schedule a randomizer finale before I go. Hopefully I can schedule that. So yeah, not too many. It's crazy. I just got all my stream materials ready for DFS, and I'm like ready to kind of turn the page over a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to Daigle earlier today, and it was like I'm partially ready because this grind is like I feel like it's starting to get to me of all these drafts. But then on the other hand, I'm like it's such a shift. Like it's such a totally different way of thinking about things and strategy and all that I'm also not ready to totally dive in. See, look at this quarterback is totally fine.
Yep. Well, and I think that it makes sense, right? Like everyone collectively in this room was drafting them a little earlier. And so then they're not feeling the need to grab these guys.
And I think we can take whoever we want here non-quarterback because Alex has two.
Yeah.
So I have a take, but I want to wait for.
I have a take too. I bet we have the same take.
It's the same person.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier too.
It's
Chuba.
It's absolutely Chuba.
That's the slam dunk.
Why doesn't Chuba go like Madison, Damian, maybe higher? Maybe he should go higher than those guys. Right?
I think he should go slightly above Madison and right around where Damian's going. I mean, I wrote up the kind of roster cuts in the newsletter the other day, and one of I think the most actionable was them cutting Bonifon and Rodney Smith. I mean, they're rolling with just Chuba and Trenton Cannon, who's a special teams player behind McCaffrey. And so this is the Mike Davis scenario all over again. If McCaffrey goes down, we're getting Chuba Hubbard, probably 90% CMC usage, which is insane.
I mean, I couldn't possibly agree more. So I kind of have an idea of the quarterback. We don't have one of his pass catchers yet, but Zach Wilson is my favorite quarterback, and I think he has the most upside here. Yep. And I think there's enough. There's definitely one guy. There's definitely one guy that's the perfect backdoor stack here, and I think he even got mentioned in the chat.
Oh yeah.
We can talk about him later, but
the babyface killer, as we were calling him last night.
Yes, exactly. But he's a good example, and we can talk about it when we get to that pick of this guy who's like going to be so low owned in this tournament, and now he is a viable, not just like stack with Wilson, but a viable punt tight end option. Like he's no worse than any of these other scrubs that were taken back here, Parham and all these guys, and so it's like, there's only like 10% left of this contest to fill. Now's the perfect time to take this guy because, catches 2 touchdowns in the championship week and bingo, you hit a super low owned guy late in your draft.
For sure. Yeah. And again, it's that same thing. I had a moment of weakness with Hawkinson there where I was like, why don't we take Kmet? But again, we're playing for the top 3 season from Hawkinson, and I don't think that's a crazy thesis. And then if we're drafting him as if he's Kittle or Waller, well, if we had drafted those guys, we would draft our tight end in the last round. It would be a Parham, it would be an OJ Howard. So why not just treat Hawkinson as if he's that?
Totally agree. That's what I try to do with Pitts. I think we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
We were trying to do that with Pitts. It's like, just because you feel a little shakier about them doesn't mean the advantage of them isn't any different than Travis Kelce. Like, of course, we all feel better about Travis Kelce, but the advantage of taking Kyle Pitts in the 4th round and TJ Hawkinson in the 6th round is because you're hoping that they at least come close enough to Kelce that they basically give you the same advantage in your lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with tight end getting wiped out too, I do feel like that's the dominant strategy right now, getting one of those 6 and then really kind of pushing it with that second one.
We're in trouble.
Now this is the one too, where if you get the perfect backdoor stack, at quarterback. Okay. That's a little bit more. I thought they were talking about tight end.
I don't care about tight end, but quarterback, I think I agree. The discussion
is Darnold still available? Yeah. I think he would be the perfect 3rd quarterback in this situation.
There's tons of quarterbacks here.
Yeah. And how many picks do we have left? Just 2?
2.
So we can quarterback, tight end. We're good.
Yep. And these running backs are pretty good actually for, I guess other people would probably not feel comfortable with this, but I think, we obviously have the 2 like super premium handcuff contingency plays in Madison and Chuba, and then Swift as an anchor, but then 2 guys that are, have both Rojo doesn't really have the contingency, but Connor has the contingency and a little bit of an early role, and Rojo definitely has the early role. So I feel really good about this blend of running backs.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting. Sean just wrote a follow-up to his Zero RB article with kind of, how to apply this in drafts. And he made a little chart. And so he slotted Ronald Jones in the 2 down to upside role, which, obviously makes sense with, Gio before capping him. He posted this before that injury. And he definitely now could even get a little bit more pass work if Fournette's just totally dust. And then he has Connor in the 3 down committee one, where it's like, yeah, he's in a committee, but there are paths to him just being the full blown, workhorse in the event of an injury or Edmonds underperforming. So the way I think about this lineup is like, we're getting the high floor from Swift with those receptions. We alternate weeks between Ronald Jones and James Conner, and then we try to bank one of Madison or Chuba as the league winning handcuff. And that's how you get there.
I totally agree. So we got sniped on Croft because, of course, Tommy Zero here took Tyler Croft from us.
So what's our tight ends looking like?
Jarwin is probably the best guy. Hold on, I want to take Darnold and then we can figure out.
Yeah, good call. Get lock Darnold up.
And I'm gonna let it run out. I'm just gonna add a couple of these guys to the queue so that.
What has been your take on? Like, I have a decent amount of Schultz. I don't have a ton of Jarwin. What is your take on that?
I just feel like Jarwin is kind of more upside. Like if the season played out for the Cowboys, they would want Jarwin to be the guy. Is kind of my stance. I also feel like you don't have to take him. Like there is Conklin, Herndon,
That's true.
Hurst. I really do not have a strong take.
I know. I mean, I have just still been taking Parham here as just like the one guy where I just feel if Cook gets hurt, I mean, Parham's probably a top 10 tight end pretty easily.
Yeah. He's I do think he's the upside play out of all these guys. Like he may end up being absolutely nothing, but they all could be absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And even as much as we want to dream about guys like Blake Jarwin, like the absolute nut scenario for Blake Jarwin is that he's still like the fifth option on that offense. Like everybody would have to get hurt for him to be anything. Whereas Parham could be something, period. And then, if Cook goes down or Keenan goes down or something, I think that he actually has upside. So I'm good with Parham.
And again, it goes back to that same thing we were talking about. I mean, we are planning to use Hawkinson's score every single week. So if we're working under that assumption, then we want a guy who has upside to outscore Hawkinson in weeks. We can't, that's why we pass on Dan Arnold. Like we could toss him into the stack. You get the correlation benefits, but does he realistically have paths to like, what would have to happen for Dan Arnold to be able to outscore TJ Hawkinson? It seems almost impossible, but the story for Parham to do it is pretty simple.
And that's where I get the stack thing. Like the Croft thing made sense because I do actually think Croft has some upside, but also like we already have a Darnold stack. And so like we were trying to stack Zach Wilson because we don't have anything with Zach Wilson. But like there's a breaking point where the stacking thing is like good and important and the correlation works compared to, are you ever gonna, even in this guy's ceiling weeks, are you ever gonna use his score? Like Dan Arnold is like 2 catches for 12 yards and a touchdown. Is like that's like the ceiling week for maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong about that. But to me, that's like the ceiling that you're hoping for. And TJ Hawkinson might just outscore that every single week, even in floor weeks,
Right.
And so there's no real benefit to that versus like what you said, Parham, in theory, to me, has real ceiling to where like, okay, when he has the spike week, like we're really using that score and he's beating Hawkinson.
Yeah, and I think just the type of players they are too, where Parham could have and probably should have a red zone role right out of the gate in the way he could get you those, dare I say, spike weeks of a couple touchdowns. Like he could just bank 2 touchdowns in the red zone in a week, whereas the Dan Arnold, like it's just hard to see that. I could see lots of like 4 for 35 games for Dan Arnold, but how many times is he catching 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like never happen, like just never going to happen. And so that's where, people talk about stacking and all these different things. And I probably differ a little bit at times at the end of drafts or just with stacks and stuff in general, where I think, I also think it's a little bit different so like if you're playing in the big dog, maybe not with Dan Arnold, but if you're playing in, like DraftKings has single entry contests now that are like literally like 500 people. It's like in that, I'm probably just maybe like, again, not Dan Arnold, but like if I'm deciding between guys, just toss on the guy from that team because like I just don't want to have to get very many things right in a 200,000 person field. It's like I actually probably want to spread things out a little bit, maybe make more bets on different offenses and that kind of thing, because you really just need the stone cold nuts in this. So anyway, just go through a couple people were asking for. This is also definitely
because I drank so much water, I need to pee. I'll be right back.
Go for it. We got sauce from the 102. Dak and Derek Carr. Derek Carr is absolutely garbage, so you're never going to use him. Why would you ever even take him? You might as well draft Drew Lock or Marcus Mariota, Darren Waller, Cole Kmet. You did the Kmet thing when you had Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow, Jesus, Raider stack. This is a Davis team. You listen to Davis's content. Jerry Jeudy, Chase Claypool, Devonta Smith. I like your wide receivers. Little worried about your running backs. Alvin Kamara at 2. Are you a ship chaser? You fell hook, line, and sinker. All the wide receivers, Darren Waller, and Kamara at 2. No, good team. It's a good team. I think I would have punted off Komet for something like you could have got Jarwin there at the end instead of Komet, even though I love Komet. Fun team. What do we got? 104. D. Weiss, my guy D. Weiss. He also went with the 3 quarterbacks. What do we get? Tannehill to AJ Brown. Ooh, and Devontae. Kittle Hooper. Now this is how you hyper fragile in 2021. This is how you hyper fragile in 2021. Javonte, Hunt, Carter, and Nyheim Hines.
That is pushing it.
I think I told you, like, I learned stuff from other people that whether they're in the Discord or on shows and do drafts, and like these people are sick. Like I thought I came on shows early. Like people thought I was an idiot because I was coming on shows like, no, we need to do this. We need to make things more fragile. We need to, you need to take Tony Pollard as your RB2 and blah, blah, blah. And like these people are sending me screenshots. What do you think about this team? It's a hyper fragile team. And like, it's like James Conner and like James Conner's your RB1 and they're like hyper fragile. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, you do need a little bit of, running back scoring, So, I mean, I don't even hate this, but you guys are drawing even more thin than I like to draw.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I can spin it like when you tell your story, it's that Hunt and Hines are going to give you this floor and your wide receivers are going to be so jacked up. And then you just need one of Carter or Williams to break relatively early. So it goes back to that parlay thing. It's like similar to our group, but maybe our group has a, 35% chance of hitting. This group has like a 20% chance of hitting. Like you pushed it even further.
I mean, this isn't that bad though. I mean, you also have CMC, which is like, honestly, you could do whatever the hell you want on a CMC team. And I would probably be like, yeah, it makes sense. And this is also like, I probably have teams where Pollard is my RB1, but not in a 4 running back, not in a 4 running back team. Yeah.
Can I see the rest? Cause, Doom mentioned that his wide receivers aren't good enough. I want to see what did he reach on quarterback or something?
Tannehill. I mean, Tannehill at
cost. Okay, that's fine.
So I would only take 2, but I would only take 2 quarterbacks with Tannehill. Wentz, I like Wentz probably more than the market, but he's not doing anything for you really, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, Eric, ever talk about the perfect excuse to draft Darrington Evans? You don't do that 3rd quarterback and you add Darrington Evans along with AJ Brown and Tannehill as your 5th running back there.
And it's absolute wheels up Yahtzee. Like that's I'm trying to actively get, like, I would love this team. Like give me this team. If you swapped Wentz for Darrington Evans, like I would want this in my portfolio.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That honestly, probably my biggest crutch this year is I have ended up with so many 2-5-9-2 teams like that. I just get to that construction almost from every which direction.
I mean, it's to me like the optimal. I've started to do more 0 RB in Best Ball Mania because I think I did so much during whichever one of the puppies it was where we had the wide receiver nonsense going on. And then it kind of, in early in draft season, I actually didn't have that many 0 RB teams because in Best Ball Mania, like I said, Jerry Jeudy was going in the 80s. I have like 6th round Cooper Kupp teams. It was just stupid early on. So I could take the Gibson detours and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm building a lot of 6 running back teams because like, I mean, what is like, you're getting to the 18th round and these wide receivers are absolutely horrible. I mean, we obviously ended up with pretty strong wide receivers, but you got like AJ Green went in the 12th round of this draft we just did.
Yeah.
KJ Hamler went in the 12th round, so it's just such a different environment.
Yeah. And not to mention, we now have huge information updates on some of these guys. And like, say, take Quadre Allison, like he's still basically going in undrafted in most of these things. And we know that he has basically 0 competition for the backup role behind Mike Davis. And he's just there. So I do think it is skewing toward those last couple picks being running backs because they're the ones that I think are the best values there.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing on Underdog right now. It's not the same on all the sites, but that's definitely the biggest thing on Underdog. And
Yeah.
it's been going on like this for a while, where you reach a certain point, it's just always a running back. So anyway, we can get out of here. I know you have had a rough day. Everyone now thinks that you are Davis's height. And
Dude, that Photoshop was hilarious.
So that's our designer, Alex Blundell. I've talked to him like every single day. He does all my thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. He did it totally unprompted. I promise I had no part in this. He just did it. And I was like, this is the greatest picture I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, I was dying because there's literally people in my Discord who know me very well. And they're like being honest. And they're like, oh, Pete, I didn't know you were that short. I was like, I'm not that short. That's Davis.
I have to show this just for the people that are watching, because it's so good. Oh my God, so good.
It's such an insanely good Photoshop too.
It's one of the best Photoshops. It fooled my wife. She replied.
She's like, when did you go to the game with Pete?
That's what she was like, when was this? And I was like, it's just Photoshop, babe.
Oh my God.
Look at that.
It just your face on mine, like that, it just the neck. I mean, it's like the perfect Photoshop. It's so absurd.
Absolutely incredible. Like, and people are fooled. Like you said, people are totally fooled. People that know you, my own freaking wife was fooled. He got everybody, like, so much so that the jokester of all jokesters had to like clarify, guys, this is the real picture. I promise I'm not 4 foot tall.
The other thing is too, is like most of fantasy Twitter was aware of this original picture because they know it was the game that Davis and I went to, the Laird game, which was, a heavily publicized event. So the fact that people were allowing themselves to get fooled, and most people have seen me in other photos, they've seen me in real life. Like, come on, guys, you're killing me.
And like, you stand up on streams and stuff, or like walk away. Like, I don't know how anyone could ever think that was true, but that was like, I mean, everybody else should shut it down on Twitter, because Alex absolutely won Twitter today. That was just so good.
Oh, I gotta read a tweet from Alex Baker right now because he's not gonna make it. Guy just got tagged in it. Was in a draft today and someone went Pollard, McKissick, Madison, Damian Williams, Darrington Evans, and Carlos Hyde. It's like, geez, I like all of those players individually, but it's going to be hard to make the playoff when all of your RBs are projected for 5 points. I mean, someone needs to teach Alex Baker about zero RB, because I'm like, that's about the perfect zero RB room right there. That
sounds like a team that I would like. Like, yeah. I've probably drafted a ton of them. I love it though. What, like, not to go down this another Denny bit or whatever, but it is my absolute favorite when someone posts that team and they're like, oh, this idiot, look at this guy's paying the rake or whatever. I'm like, that's like one of my favorite teams I've drafted this year.
I know. So there we go. Alex, come funnel into our contest. Hammer those running backs. We need you to draft running backs.
Yes, we do. All right. What do you got going on the rest of the day? Did you already say your schedule? I don't remember.
I'm going to the gym at 5:30. I normally am not one of the guys that does the selfie at the gym or photo at the gym, but I am doing it today because no one thought I would make it. And then I randomizer draft tonight with Silva on my channel at 8:30. And then we're hopping over to ship chasing to draft with a fake piss boy, Davis Maddock. He will try to make us draft running backs.
Yeah, obviously everybody here is probably already watching Pete's stuff, but if you're not, the randomizers are absolute must-see TV. And if you know Evan Silva and his demeanor and just his personality, you know that will be absolutely must-watch TV. So for Pete, for Evan, for Mini Pete, I will be back tomorrow at noon Eastern drafting on Drafters, and I will see you guys later.